April is the official Autism Awareness Month. 3 members of our staff are on the spectrum with Asperger's syndrome. So Rocco,
Yes?
what does Autism Awareness Month mean to you?
What it means to me is that I feel like it's been an incredible amount of years since I first was diagnosed. I was diagnosed at 13 years old, back at a time where it was still relatively new to most people. But I feel like it's come a long way in terms of the public really embracing, accepting, and accommodating people, you know, because we've seen so many organizations do like special events for people that are autistic, because there's a lot of sensory issues that people have when they're autistic. So a lot of like entertainment organizations particularly have really gone out of their way to do special events for these kids. And it's a really, really sweet gesture on their parts to really show that these kids have, the way they see the world is very, very more fragile than, you know, most people. And it's in ways that a lot of people take for granted. The thing is, though, is that a lot of, we still are not completely there yet in terms of really being aware of the situation. I say that because there's been a lot of incidents that have happened, especially with the shootings that have happened in the last couple of years. A few of those people that did the shootings were on the spectrum, unfortunately. So it threatens to paint this picture potentially that people on the spectrum are, you know, potentially predisposed to this kind of level of violence, unfortunately. But the truth of the matter is that people on the spectrum, you met somebody on the spectrum, whether it's myself, Rich, or Liam, we're all, you know, you've met only one of us. We're all different people. We've all had different backgrounds. We were all raised differently. And, you know, I feel like that's, you know, we are all individuals still. And I feel like that's a very important part in understanding the situation. And then the other aspect of the situation, as much as I appreciate, you know, the level of accommodation the world has brought to us, I think it's important for us to still learn how to acclimatize ourselves with the realities of the world. I'll give you an example. I had a bit of a health problem last year that I took care of. I had found out I had a fatty liver, and a lot of it was from poor diet. And I had a problem with diet my entire life. I never really ate right. And what I learned, though, over the time I lost my weight was that the thing is that when you're overweight, it tends to feed your autism. There's a certain type of behavior that comes about when you're autism. You get like kind of awkward in your own body, and I feel like the fact that you don't have a good weight, it reinforces that. It makes it a lot more difficult to do that. So I feel like what I should tell people is that when you have a child on the spectrum, you have to make sure that they learn how to diet and eat and drink right, because I feel like in many ways it could affect their behavior, and it could aggravate their problems even further. And I feel like the sooner they learn this, the better they will be as they get older and get more prepared and to really, because a lot of the process for, you know, somebody on the spectrum like myself and my 2 gentlemen over here is that you have to teach these children how to prepare themselves for adult life. It's very important because there's nobody that's going to be able to do that for them. They're going to have, they need to learn this, and they need to learn this at a good age, when, you know, before that they're adults, and then they, you know, because when you're younger, the brain is more fluid, and you have a better tendency to be rewired to and adapt to the modern world. So basically, that's what I have to say. So I'm going to turn it over to Rich.
Thank you, Rocco. I think that the spectrum teaches you a lot. It teaches you appreciation for your fellow man. It teaches you to recognize the world for what it truly is, a very special place. And I agree with Rocco. Diet also plays a big role. I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome back in 2002, I believe. And since my diagnosis, I see the world very differently. I see it as a place of acceptance. I see it as a place where people respect one another. They look out for one another. Yeah, there are those few who unfortunately commit crimes and give us a bad name, and, you know, it's sad because I believe that with the right guidance, with the right mentorship, anybody can accomplish anything. And I think that in my time being on the spectrum, I've learned to accept a lot of things for what they are. I have friends that are very influential in my life. My best friend Julie, who I believe is calling me at this very moment and has no idea that I am doing this. You could turn off my ringer, that would be great, Rocco, thank you. Julie has been an amazing influence in my life because she provides a lot of feedback. She's very familiar with autism. She worked with Camp Anchor Kids. She gives a lot of her own time to the cause and really is an amazing person. She's just one of a great many out there who take the time to listen, to take the time to hear what we have to say and actually appreciate what we have to say. And that, I believe, is what prevents people from reaching that level of psychosis where they feel that they have to commit a crime. If people take the time to mentor people, to listen to people on the spectrum, and listen to what they have to offer, I believe the world will be a much better place than it is right now. I really believe that. I believe wholeheartedly that, you know, now that we have a new cast member on the crew, Liam, who I'm really thrilled to be working with, I believe the sky's the limit. I really do believe that, no pun intended.
Okay, Liam, your thoughts on Autism Awareness Month, and any other thoughts you want to add to Richard Rocco?
All right. Well, as cynical as this may sound, I feel that Autism Awareness Month is a bit of a double-edged sword. While I do certainly appreciate why it's there, why as being diagnosed since 1998, I believe, since I was 6 years old. So I was diagnosed fairly early. I was able to get the treatment that I needed, so I am able to almost fully adapt to the modern world, fully adapt to society. Still need to work on a few things, but you would need to... I also believe that some people like to put a badge on themselves where they'll just use it for the sake of attention. Something that does disturb me sometimes when it comes to autism is that I'll overhear some people wishing that they had autism, where I don't know where they get the idea from, but I believe it's just some social political aspect where when people have learning disabilities or anything when it comes to not being seen as the norm in society, which honestly that's what I want for people with Asperger's syndrome, autism, to be seen as the norm and not some exception. Sorry.
Yes.
And that's honestly just about it. I mean, honestly, having Asperger's syndrome is not really that big a deal to me. It's just a part of who I am. It's not something that I'll wave around as if it's a badge of honor. But at the same time, it's not something that I feel is a burden.
Excellent.
Guys, I want to thank you all for sharing and
Thank you.
and just relating, one of the most inspirational examples of Asperger's syndrome I've seen in my lifetime is the story about Susan Boyle. Susan Boyle was the great singer that came from the UK, and she was on an audition with Britain's Got Talent with Simon Cowell. Before the audition, they were kind of laughing at her, and she said in the interview, "I'm a 48-year-old woman that's never been kissed," and when she was doing her little interview with Simon, they were like, everyone in the audience was snickering at her and laughing at her, and she had this awful dress on, and then when it came time to sing, she just blew everyone away, from the judges to the audience, and it got like over 1 million hits on YouTube, and now she's this famous star, and and she's an inspiration. A lot of it, she talks about her background, having Asperger's, and it's just a great story of a woman who was 48 years old, who got an opportunity, who's now a mega superstar, and rose from a lot of adversity, and that's why I'm really proud of this show, because I think Rich and Rocco, now Liam, are definitely putting a positive spin on people with Asperger's, and they all have the same qualities. They're all bright and intelligent and inspirational, and proud to have all three on our staff, and I think they're a shining example of people on the spectrum, and a great example in a positive way on Autism Awareness Month. So thank you to Rich, Rocco, and Liam for
We thank you.
contributing.